So I'm Dave McCarran. I'm from Academic Network, which is a Stericycle company. And I want to first thank Socap for asking us to put together this breakout session, and my colleagues at Stericycle and Academic Network for working with our panelists today to have an open discussion on this topic, leveraging social media, the top phrase of the day, the week of the year, in product recalls. And some of you were in a session earlier this morning, which was quite good, and I think got out a lot of issues that those involved in consumer affairs need to be concerned about. We're going to focus today in this afternoon session more on how this applies to product recall situations on the social media. I'm joined by Janet Johnson, who's in the middle of the panel. Janet is an online strategist with us at Academic Network in Portland. Mia Novick, the Director of Pharma Healthcare at Nielsen Online. And Chris Gittes, who just joined us from Hill Knowlton and the Vice President of U.S. Risk Management Crisis Communication. And finally, somebody who, as I get to know Socap, I know is well known to people, Mia Johnson, Director of Unilever Consumer Services. And just briefly, you've heard the statistics, and they are daunting. Facebook is adding 500,000 users a day. Janet pointed out over lunch that 70% of them are outside the United States. 500,000 people a day are signing up. Twitter is adding 5,000 to 10,000 users, and that's still on the flat part of the growth curve, and it's going to hit the asymptote and just take off. Also, Technorati now tracks 133 million active blogs every day, and that number will be increasing almost exponentially. And 100 million people watch videos in 1 month on YouTube. All of us, someplace in the last week, were touched by Sarah Boyle and her singing on YouTube. And you think about the exposure this person had within 48 hours, literally hundreds of millions of people hearing her sing. And that could never have happened just even 2-3 years ago. Could not have happened. So it's become a crowded space. There are the obvious discussion points, Skype, but then the more commonly talked about social networks, but then microblogs, live streams, live casts, virtual worlds. Those of you who have not ventured into some of these virtual worlds, they are remarkable virtual settings. Social games, published to sharing, Flickr, YouTube being the biggest ones. And this is just going to become more complex. And it's happening literally at the speed of light. So you can go online during recalls, and there's a variety of different ways, and Janet and others are going to touch upon this, that you can begin to track information and see immediately what is happening out in that space. And again, much of this was not possible even probably 18 months ago to have the capacity that we do have. And things are again appearing as fast as the speed of light. And therefore, our world is changing in that same time frame. And I'll close with my comments from an observation at a meeting I was at in Philadelphia about 6 weeks ago, where the topic was getting people into clinical trials. And I have a strong background in that area in academic medicine. But I was struck by a comment from a major pharmaceutical vice president who said, this is the structure of the U.S. pharmaceutical, international pharmaceutical industry, and there's probably some of you in the room representing that business sector. And he described the classic laboratory discovery, clinical trial, and dissemination information top down. And then he put the next slide up. He said, it's over. It's all coming from down here and coming up, and we're going to have to figure this out if we're going to continue to operate as we have in the past. And in fact, he concluded we can't operate the way we have in the past. So with no further comments, I'm going to first ask Janet to, each of the panelists are going to make a few minutes of comments,